Welcome to our roundtable discussion with CWA President Gloria Middleton of Local 1180. Madam President, let's take on the topic head on of cannabis in New York State. It did not pass this year.
Yes, it did not pass because there's a lot of controversy over the legalization of cannabis. My personal take is I know sort of the history of where it was trying to be decriminalized years ago during the Rockefeller years. And it was only supposed to be if you carried a certain amount, you would get a ticket for it. It would be a fine, a summons. Stop and frisk came into play, and all of a sudden it became a misdemeanor. Police would have young men and women empty their pockets and then arrest them if they had over a certain amount. And stop and frisk became the norm for the day. Decriminalizing cannabis is about keeping minorities out of prison or having a record. There's no such thing in New York State as when they say a sealed record rather than just to expunge a record. They don't do that in New York State. What they do is seal it. The problem with a sealed record is it can be opened. It affects how young black men and women and Latina men and women go through their life, whether they want to put on what they put on a college application or whether they put on a job application. If they have this misdemeanor on there, it then involves them not being able to go further. I really think it's a divide in this country. Certain people can carry cannabis on them and get arrested by police and nothing happens. If you're a person of color, then it becomes something that goes further than what it should be. There's a lot of debate. People don't want to see people smoking cannabis in the streets. I've been in states where it has been legal. They don't smoke in the street. It's where you decide personally whether it's in a club or in your home or out with friends, etc. You know, we have to find a way where we can do it where the majority of the population feels safe. I have talked to some of the round table people, and people have different opinions on it, and they will speak on it as I go through my discussion. I personally have had my family members stopped, whether they had it on them or not, but that stop and frisk did a lot to invoke what I believe unjust arrests and misdemeanor files placed on their records.
The topic at hand is cannabis, and I want to bring in the four members of the panel. Let me introduce them. Amanda Novello. Amanda is a representative from the private sector shops. She works at the Century Foundation, a progressive, nonpartisan think tank that seeks to foster opportunity, reduce inequality, and promote security at home and abroad. We're also joined by Sharon Hepburn. Sharon is an administrative assistant with the New York City Comptroller's Office and a local 1180 activist. We are joined by Mr. Anthony Lewis. He is a PAA at HRA and an HRA shop steward. We're also joined by Mary Mason. Mary is a local 1180 retiree from HRA and a very active member of the local 1180 retiree member brigade. So let's go ahead and continue the discussion.
I just want to say that I don't feel anyone should be arrested for carrying marijuana. However, I don't believe it should be smoked in public, in their private home, for medical reasons. And for me, it makes me sick. The smell of it makes me sick, and that's just my personal. But if anyone, that's one's personal choice. If they want to smoke it, fine. And I have a problem with one smoking marijuana and driving because I am a driver and I'm very concerned for public safety. And I don't think it should be smoked while driving either.
Yeah, I think these are all things that could be put into law. I think that as you said, President Middleton, I think the places that have decriminalized and even legalized have been able to manage it in different ways so that it doesn't become a public health and safety issue. I also think that the terms of the debate have gotten kind of skewed to the point where we forget that we're talking about something that is arguably on par with having a drink, like having a smoke, having a drink. I think it's just gotten blown out of proportion so much to the point where thousands of people are in jail, which I just think is crazy.
Yes, they used to call cannabis the gateway drug to other drugs, and it's been proven that that's not so. As a matter of fact, medical marijuana has been proven to help cancer patients and people who suffer with nausea and different diseases. So we need to look at the effects, the positive side of cannabis rather than always looking at the negative. And
it shows up in different ways, in different forms. Because I heard that you can get it with cookies and candy. And so this way it's enticing to younger children instead of those of age. So that's where my concern goes. And then when I'm out in public and you smell the smell in people's clothes, it's in their skin. And sometimes I don't think they realize that once you ingest that into your system, it's in your skin. So that's not washable. You can't just go and wash it off. And it's so offensive. So I'm hoping that they will take that in consideration too when they allow it to be so publicly done.
I don't disagree with that, but I also think that the smell of cigarettes and the health effects of breathing secondhand smoke is also absolutely repulsive.
Absolutely.
And I just don't, like, if we're gonna, talk about how the smell bothers some people for weed, like cannabis, sorry. I think that cigarettes are a huge issue too. I think we should talk about that.
I wonder if with the decriminalization of cannabis, will employers stop giving drug tests for people searching for jobs? Because I know a lot of people that smoke a joint or cannabis and fail the drug test, and that's all they do is a little cannabis, and they'll be great workers, but this drug test is keeping them from working.
And that's a big issue. A big issue for many people. We've already seen, the president alluded to this in her past comment, but we've seen situations, we all know of situations where people go to get a job and something pops up in their system, from cannabis, and then they're disqualified. So you don't want to see that happen anymore.
Not for that drug, right? Yes.
to Amanda's point, I hate cigarette smoke.
Bravo, or Madam Amanda,
To
Madam President.
Amanda's point,
Yes, I feel the same way.
I am allergic to cigarette smoke, as a matter of fact. So, but that's legal. It's making millions of dollars for the tobacco industry. They moved it over to vapor, which is more smoke than actual cigarettes. So, how is one thing better than the other? Let me make it clear, I'm not a cannabis smoker. Okay, but I've seen it used for different things. It brings money into the states. Washington, D.C. is a state where it is legal. I've seen the statistics have shown that it does help with government with taxes, etc. So it could be used for that, just as they do cigarettes. They tax cigarettes to the hilt. They should do the same thing for cannabis, while to that extent decriminalizing it for younger people who choose to smoke cannabis and not have them have records where it involves the rest of their life being tainted.
But let me just throw this out to the table here. The decriminalization of cannabis, it makes it much easier for young people, for anyone to obtain cannabis and to use cannabis.
Yes, it should. You might be able now to go to the neighborhood grocery store to buy it instead of the owner of the store selling it under the table. So that being said, it should be very much easier. And then that store owner would have to pay taxes on it also. So yes, it should be easier.
And I also think we should take into consideration the effects of it and how it's affecting our young people as well as adults. Are they able to function normally? I mean, when they're on a high, I don't think so.
So you're saying, wait a minute, let's slow down a little bit?
Yes.
I
we should.
think it's plenty easy for anyone to get as it is. I think it would just make people not go to jail for being found with it.
And so Amanda, so your point is that the train has already left the station?
I think so.
Well, to everyone on the panel, starting with you, President Middleton, thank you for your lively discussion on cannabis. That wraps up this segment. We hope you join us in our next segment. Another very important issue, a woman's right to choose.